It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
And welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Breakfast as we talk your property news in the middle of our working week. Yes, we do that 7 days a week, as heard on iHeartRadio these days, Spotify, Apple Podcasts and Amazon. It is the 9th day of October, as I mentioned, a Wednesday. Interesting, this one. New research from Queensland University of Technology is suggesting, you kind of got to laugh at this one, that renting out Australia's 13 million spare bedrooms could provide short-term relief for the housing crisis. And let's face it, it would definitely be that. It would find relief for the housing crisis. Now, the study recommends shifting the focus from increasing supply to better utilising existing homes. It urges policy makers to incentivise older homeowners who often have the extra bedrooms to rent out. And with 3.2 million homes having at least one spare room, they say this approach could help address the housing shortage while offering financial benefits to homeowners without risking their pension or facing additional taxes. I think the question in all of this is, do they really want to do that? If they did, there would probably be more doing it. So I don't think that's going to fly somehow. Our next guest this morning is Shane Martin. He is a mortgage broker from Loan Market in Geelong. And we're going to be having a look at bridging finance for those of you that want to buy a new property before or while you're selling your current property. It does provide you with the flexibility of securing your next property without waiting for the sale of your existing home to happen, if you want to do that, of course. And a very good morning. Welcome back to you, Shane, on this day of October the 9th. And some people hit the month of October and they say, yeah, let's just look at buying into the new year. Others, of course, decide to scramble and squeeze the buying process into this year. How busy is this time of the year for most mortgage brokers around the country?
Well, good morning, Craig, and thanks for having me back on. I would say heading into October, November are probably our busiest months of the year here in Victoria, Geelong/Torquay. I think a lot of people hibernate over winter, and they're definitely coming out now, coming into the warmer months.
Busy time, okay, so that's probably sort of segues us into a busy, potentially bridging finance time too, which has been around for a very long time, although younger buyers, now they might not know that much about bridging finance. So for those that are unsure, perhaps just step over bridging finance this morning.
Great point there, and yes, bridging has been around for a long time now, but a lot of your younger listeners probably won't be aware of it. We've come off some record low interest rates that kind of negated the need for it, but at the moment we're starting to see, properties are sitting on the market for a little bit longer. So access to that short-term funding, i.e. bridging finance, is really coming into play at the moment. It allows you that ability, you find your dream home, and sometimes people aren't aware that they're even looking, but when they find they want their home sold yesterday, that's obviously not the case. So we utilise bridging to fund the purchase of the new property while they get their property up for sale.
Yeah, there's a lot of people back in the day when interest rates were 18%. And if you're listening to the podcast this morning, you go, yeah, I was one of those, and possibly paying 18%, you might have been one of those people that transacted with a bridging loan at 18%. So, yeah, quite decent amounts of money back 30 years ago. But when somebody has decided to buy another property, often, as you just said, often they are looking to buy before they've sold their own home, and invariably what happens is they fall in love with the property and they want their home sold yesterday. So in that scenario, someone might turn to bridging finance. Now, how long does it usually take to get that bridging finance loan up and happening?
Perfect point, Craig. I would say 90% of the people that come to me that end up needing bridging come with the, hey, we weren't looking for a property, but we found this one on the weekend we absolutely love. What are our options? And if it does turn out that bridging is an option for them, it's much in the same as a normal loan as far as the turnaround times. It's just a matter of getting valuations on both properties, but it's not uncommon to have a lender approval within 48 hours. So it does act in the exact same way as a normal loan as far as the assessment is concerned. I guess the only thing that may slow it down is multiple valuations versus just one.
Now, in terms of this market, it's a little bit more of a buyer's market. Over, the COVID period when the market was extremely hot, everything was just selling so quickly. Very kind of hard to transact a little bit more in that market. Is it fair to say that you're probably seeing a little bit more of the bridging finance around this sort of period in the marketplace?
Great point, and you're 100% on the money there. This is where bridging's really coming into its own at the moment, is that people are putting properties up to sell that are taking, during COVID time, we're going to take less than a month. At the moment, they're taking, 4, maybe 5 months. So, yeah, this is exactly why bridging is in place, to sort of allow for that time period. And, lenders will allow essentially up to 12 months for you to sell that property. But there's some other strategies you can use as well. And one of them is pushing out the settlement of the new purchase. You can go unconditional on the property, get the loan approved, and then have up to 6 months to settle on it. That means that even though you've had the bridging approved, there's actually no real cost until you settle 6 months later. And hopefully that allows enough time to get your property ready to sell on the market and sold.
All right, we are talking to Shane Martin there in Geelong this morning. We'll find out a little bit more about some of the cost of a bridging loan and a strategy, of course, because you can use it as a strategy. And a lot of people don't sort of feel that is part of the aspect of a bridging loan, but it definitely is. We'll talk more after this.
We talk to the most knowledgeable real estate experts across Australia every day from 6 a.m.
And if you are in Perth this morning, here's some news if you are a homeowner that you just love to hear about. Homeowners are snapping up properties in Australia's hottest suburbs at record speeds, with homes selling up to 78% faster than a year ago. Now, PropTrack have done some numbers, and their data reveals the top 10 suburbs in each capital city where the median days on market have dropped the most over the last 12 months. In these competitive areas, buyers are making offers within days of listings, pushing prices up higher. And as I say, if you're in Perth currently leads as Australia's hottest property market, where quick sales are driving property growth, and that is according to real estate agents on the ground.
Decode the property market with insider knowledge and insights to better navigate your real estate journey on the Real Estate Podcast.
And it is a Real Estate Wednesday, talking bridging finance, and we talked about the length of time to get your hands on the bridging loan from Shane there in Geelong. But before we take out any bridging loan, probably the most important aspect is what are the costs involved. So perhaps you can step over that for us this morning.
Yeah, definitely, and a really important question, and something your listeners need to be aware of. Bridging loans are great in their nature, and they're short term, but the fact that they are short term sort of lends them to have higher interest rates. You're going to be talking at the moment between anywhere from 8 to 10% interest. Some of the lenders set these loans up differently as well. Some of them will capitalise the interest, so essentially during the bridging period there'll be no payments onto the interest, and that'll essentially just go go on top of the residual loan that you get once you've sold your property. Other lenders want to know that you've got cash savings sitting there to cover the interest. So I always say it's really important to work through with your mortgage broker what's the right, lender and strategy in these positions. And as I touched on before, one of the big strategies I like to use is trying to push out the settlement on that purchase sort of as long as you can. It just buys you a bit of quotations free time to start to sell your property and try and get ahead of the market there.
Yeah, so, coming back to the whole strategy side of it, if you want to buy a property and you look purely at bridging finance is way, way too expensive. But if the bridging finance gets you that home that you really, really want, then it is arguably worth it, particularly if that home you're going to be in for at least 10 years, right?
Exactly, and really good point. And this is something I touch on with my clients, particularly to say, is this the property? This is a dream home that you've been looking for. If it's an investment, is it in line with your portfolio growth strategy? And there's a couple of markers there that play into it, but as you touched on, if it gets you the right property at the right time, it's definitely a worthwhile exercise.
Yeah, it's a very small amount of money in the long scheme of things. So just put that into its rightful box if you are looking at a property at the moment and you're saying, come on, property, sell your existing property. You're getting outside, you're doing the whole sort of dancing around, praying to the gods, but nothing is happening. Well, bridging finance may be a solution, but make sure that you do your numbers, of course. Very, very important. Now, we know from the beginning of the process when you're looking at a bridging loan that we don't want it forever. I mean, this is very much a temporary sort of measure until your house sells. So perhaps, Shane, explain just how long somebody can have that bridging loan for in an ideal world.
Ideally, it's as short as possible, but I think most lenders that we do bridging through are going to go up to 12 months. At that point, if your property hasn't sold, each lender does it a little bit differently, but essentially they're going to come out, reevaluate the property, and just try and make sure that what you're asking for the property is in line with what the market's at. One of the other strategies, if you've got a property that maybe you already know people have interest in it, or the agent said, hey, I think I've got a buyer for this one, you can set the bridging up over a shorter period. I mean, just last week I set one up over 6 months. That meant that the clients also didn't need to have as much cash savings sitting in their account to cover the interest at the time of submission. So again, it's a real strategy piece per applicant. But yeah, bridging can definitely help, I think.
Well, I better let you go there, Shane, because as you said, it's the busiest time of the year. No doubt you've got a very busy Wednesday coming up. Thanks for joining us on the Real Estate Breakfast and enjoy your day.
No worries, Craig. Thanks for having me. Cheers.
We dive deep into topics like buying, selling, investing, and maximising your property's value. From mortgage advice to the latest property data, your real estate journey starts here.
Well, we've still got issues with builders dealing with legacy projects, so those fixed price contracts. Builders are making money, the trade contractors are making money, but there are still issues with insolvencies, sadly.
You mentioned that the building materials, they have gotten a little bit cheaper, but 12 months ago it was more expensive. The numbers didn't stack up. How much is that sort of saving from a year ago?
Well, not significant. The most recent data from the Australian Bureau of Statistics is up till July this year, and the cost of building detached housing, so a house in Queensland, has gone up 38% over the last 3 years. Total construction is up around 30%, so that's the units, houses, and the commercial buildings. So we're up a third. It has come back a little bit, but still significant price rises.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.